Good morning. Hi, English 101. How are you? Dr. Morgan here. So good to see you. Well, kind of. you know, so good to see you in Zoom land. Listen, I'm going to give you a really, really quick refresher of essay format. Excuse me. So, get out your notebooks and let's go. Not joking. Notebooks. Here we go. That looks like it's not coming up great. That says essay format. Essay format. Remember that in essay format, you write your name at the corner left of your paper. You put the date, you put the assignment, and then you put my name. You put doctor if it's appropriate for the teacher, or professor if they don't have a doctorate. Or you can put professor for anybody, right? Anybody who teaches at the college level is a professor, right, of some shape or form. Okay, so that's standard essay format on the page. Then in the middle, you have a title. You have to name the baby, put a title. Okay, so this is essay format on the page. You need to do that every time, every assignment for any class. Okay, it's just that standard college format. Then essay format, intro, bodies, conclusion. Intro, paragraph format. Intro, paragraph format. You have a hook, also called an attention grabber. Right? This is something to grab your reading audience. You can have a couple sentence long story. Remember our death row example? It's like, imagine being trapped on death row for decades and decades. All along, you knew you were innocent, right? You have some kind of creative narrative. That's really fun to do. Sometimes it's very high school to me, but it's to start with a quote. Like Abraham Lincoln once said, it just feels very high school to me, but you can do it. It's a choice. Um, you can also have like a startling statistic, but don't make it just a normal statistic that you would put in a body paragraph. It has to be something like 1 in 4 people put to death as later found innocent, right? Like something shocking, right? So you want to hook your reader in with something surprising, something that's going to grab their attention, okay? But make it true, right? Don't make up weird stuff. Okay? Then that's the first part. The second part is that then you give background and context. Context is basic information you should not need to Google. You don't need to, I mean, you can use the books, but you don't need to. The context is like the death penalty has been around for years. It's always been a hot button topic, very contentious. You're generally for it or against it. There's no real gray area. You don't kind of put someone to death, right? You're for it or against it, that kind of thing. It's always been a big argument, da 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 da. Some states have it, some states don't, right? You can use just your common knowledge, give some context, some background to the topic. Make sure your reader just is like grounded in the topic itself, and they're sort of situated, okay? Then, of course, the most important is the thesis. The thesis is the steering wheel for the car. If you don't have a thesis, then you just don't have a way to control and maneuver the rest of your essay. The thesis is everything. Remember that it's not a fact, right? It's not a fact. The death penalty exists is not a thesis statement. It's not an opinion. The death penalty sucks, not a thesis, right? Instead, the thesis is a position. A thesis is the position of an author. This is what we want, a position. For example, the death penalty should be banned in the United States because it is racist, sexist, and classist. Okay? I don't need I think, I feel, I believe. We don't need all this stuff. You just have your position. The I is implied. it's obviously mine. I'm writing the paper, right? So it's implied. Okay, that's intro format. Give or take, you should have some version of this. There should be some kind of attention grabber. There should be some kind of basic background. And there always should be a thesis. Intro paragraph, okay? Then you move on to body paragraph format. And not enough of you are following body paragraph format, and you have to. You just do. There's got to be some continuity in your body paragraphs. They don't all have to be the same, but there's got to be continuity. Body paragraph format. Body paragraph format is the subpoints that break down and prove your thesis. That's the function of a body paragraph, to break down and prove your thesis. So given the thesis I just gave you, what would be our first body? Racism, right? So body paragraph format. You always, always, always start with what? Topic sentence, right? Good. Topic sentence. This can be something as simple as the death penalty is racist, right? Just say it. Just say what you want. Always go for clarity in a topic sentence or a thesis. Don't overwrite the big important sentences. Just go with clarity. You really just want to be clear where it matters the most. You can get like fancy pants later, you know what I mean? But really just be very clear in the topic sentences. Right? The death penalty is racist. Then break down your paragraph, right? You could get a little bit more wordy. You can say that, the death penalty has multiple problematic issues. The main one is it's racism, that kind of thing. You can make it longer or more wordy, that's fine, but just really be clear. But that's a really big topic. A topic sentence is big. If the thesis is a steering wheel, then the topic sentence is like the gear shift, right? Or if you're used to manual cars, it's like the brakes. I don't know. It's like something else really important, right? So you want something that's just going to name that paragraph. Remember, race is our topic for this paragraph, but we're staying, the whole paper is on the death penalty, but we're just focusing on race in this one. Then the other topics are the other paragraphs. You oftentimes want to get more specific. Racism is a huge topic. Break down, especially for us in Philadelphia, where we're predominantly African-American city, you would focus on African-Americans, right? You would say more Black people are put to death than their white counterparts for the same crime. Narrow it down, not talk about every racial group. You'd have a 20-page paragraph. You just want to narrow it down to one group, okay? So get more specific, right? Broadest to more specific. Then you need to introduce your quote. This is where we say, according to, right? According to John Jackson, director of deathpenalty.org. I don't know, I'm making this up, comma, and then you quote, or you have an indirect quote. Either way, you quote and make sure that you have MLA citations. We in the humanities use MLA. That means we text in the paragraph. You have to put your source or the author's last name and page number. Now, here's where the rubber hits the road. This one takes your paper from a high school paper to a college paper, and this is critical analysis. Critical analysis is everything. Critical analysis is where we break down and deconstruct how and why that quote is proving our topic sentence, which is proving our overarching thesis. Make sense? All these parts, it's like jigsaw pieces we're all putting together. So critical analysis is asking how and why. How is that true? Why is that accurate? Why is that important, right? Don't say, in other words. I know what the quote says. You don't need to repeat it for me, right? I get it. I got it. I read it, right? So we don't want to say like what the author's trying to say. We know what they're saying, right? Give your reader some credit. They know what it's saying. So we don't want to repeat. We don't want to just like regurgitate the quote. We want to do critical analysis. It's hard. It takes time, it takes effort. This is why you used to be able to write your high school papers the morning of, and why you can't do that for college. An A in English in high school, now you're getting D's in college. This is why, right? This is why, because you need to do the critical thinking. You need to deconstruct why and how this is accurate or inaccurate and what it means for society. Like, what does it mean? How is that impacting individuals? Why is our society allowing this to happen? It's big and it's deep and it's interesting. And it's where the rubber hits the road. Okay, as my grandpa would say. Then you have a transition sentence, right? Not only is class important, so too, not only is race important, so too is class. Or not only is race the primary issue, but an often overlooked one is sexism. Then the next paragraph is sex, right? About sexism and the death penalty, right? Okay. If you want a 2-quote paragraph, if this is too short of a paragraph for you, then just add in F is second quote. EFG. G is then critical analysis of second quote. H then becomes your transition. Totally fine. Great. I love, my favorite format is to do like a statistic quote up here, like hit them with numbers and statistics. And then my second quote is an example. So it would be like 1 in 4 people put to death are later found innocent, like hit them with a statistic. And then my example would be, for example, in Philadelphia, the case of Free Mumia is very popular and it goes to show how someone innocent can be left on death row for decades. Right? And then you'd break down the Mumia case, right? Which has been around since I was a kid in Philly, right? He's still on death row. Okay. If you want to go bigger, like Leonard Peltier, right? Native American who's been on death row, and his sentence should have been commuted, and Obama didn't commute him. Bush didn't, like nobody's commuting him, right? Okay. Okay. Conclusions. Now, conclusions are a little tricky because the way you've probably traditionally been taught conclusions, so conclusion paragraph format, is that you just like spit back the thesis, that you like copy and paste the thesis and you say, therefore, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. However, what I'd like for you to do is go a little bit past that. We're a little bit beyond that now on the college level. If it's only a 3-page paper, you don't need to copy and paste your thesis. I remember it. It was only 3 pages ago, right? Like, it's okay. We really only like full copy things if it's like a 20-page paper, a 30-page article. Of course, if you have your dissertation or something really long, 200-300 pages, of course you're gonna like come back and say like, this was my points in the beginning and now here we are at the end, right? Of course. The 3-page paper, you don't need to copy and paste. But what you do differently is, we should never copy and paste, but what you're going to do is you're going to come full circle. So for example, instead of repeating my thesis, right, I'm not going to copy and paste, right? No repeating. Instead of saying, oh, where's my alarm saying go teach English 101? Instead of repeating the thesis, therefore the death penalty should be banned in the United States because it's racist, classist, sexist. Fine, right? That was the thesis. Great thesis. There's my body. It's race, class, sex. Great. I'm not going to repeat that here. What I'm going to do instead is take coming full circle means that I end where I started, but we're going to use different words. So we'd say something like, the legal system in the United States is highly prejudicial. And because of this, it should be dismantled, right? So there we have a very similar statement, but it's different wording. We're not copying and pasting. We're being original. We're being thoughtful. We're showing off vocabulary, right? We're awesome. We're doing great. So you come full circle, but with new words, right? Like a new, fresh way to say it. And then you can get more specific about the topic, right? You can come back to the topic. It has been proven that the death penalty is like a vulnerable system that has a lot of flaws and weaknesses. I guess we shouldn't make vulnerability correlated to flaws and weakness. You can say that it's a system full of holes, right? It's got flaws and weaknesses. Therefore, we shouldn't be using it until we can either fix it or something else, right? You just say that, it's got problems if you're against the death penalty. If not, obviously you flip all of this and argue the opposite, which you can for sure do. Then what we end on, and this is sort of new, and I've had students do this for about 15 years and it really works well, is that you offer solutions. My feeling about this is that you've just spent the last 3 or 4 pages tearing something apart. You've just been deconstructing something. These are all the problems with it. These are all the flaws. This is the structural systemic racism in it. This is all the reasons that it's wrong. Your reader's now left like, ugh, right? Like, what? Okay, right? It's just a lot. Like, here's all these deconstructed pieces. Like, okay, now what? Right? Like, picture like a bunch of Legos that just got torn down, right? Then what? So I think a really nice thing to do, not nice, but also constructive and effective thing to do, is to offer solutions. And in the solutions, you say, like, instead of having the death penalty, we should have XYZ, right? Again, this takes time. You have to be really thoughtful and create a solution. You can't just sit and like drink 2 Red Bulls and type your way through this kind of paper. Again, you might have been able to do that in high school. You cannot do it in college. It is not a passing paper. It's an unorganized, it reads like Red Bull. It doesn't even read like an essay, right? So you've got to impose some structural format onto your essays. You have to impose some flow, some logic. You have to embed quotations, which are textual evidence, to prove your points, right? It takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of thought, not a ton of time, but enough time. Okay. So that's a very quick version. Please remember that in your other modules, you have all the handouts, you have paper versions of this. I have gone through this. This is the 3rd time I've gone through this in video format. This was just the fastest version. You guys have Red Bull papers. I have coffee fueled lectures. Right? It's all the same. Okay, but hopefully this was still helpful. If you have any questions, come to office hours for my English 101. They're right now. For gender and history, they were this morning. Catch me next Monday or email me anytime at all. Remember, you can cite incorrectly, but you must cite. If you refuse to cite or you forget to cite, it's an automatic F. Automatic 0. Plagiarism is real. Okay. And don't forget to vote. It's November 2nd today. If you haven't mailed in or voted early, tomorrow is the day. Vote, vote, vote. Okay. I'm going to go be a good citizen. And if you're ineligible to vote for any reason, go get your friends and family, whoever you have in your life that is, go give people rides and that kind of thing. Okay. Great job. Thanks, everybody. Keep up the great work. Life is shitty. Hang in there. You're doing it. You're doing really, really great. You're doing really great. Really proud of you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.